Hi, and welcome to Nico Connection. I'm your host, Virginia Gramarosso, and joining me today is the head cross-country coach at North Central College, Al Carius. Al, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm very honored to be here, and thank you for clapping before I even started, so thank you.
So to begin, can you tell us how many years you've been coaching at North Central College?
Well, you made me count a little bit earlier, but if I counted how many years I've been here, it's 51 years I've been at North Central College, so this is my 51st year.
And how many national titles have you won in that period?
Personally, I've won no national titles, but our teams at North Central College have won 28, and we've been in the top 4 teams in the nation something like 60 different times.
So can you share a little bit about what a normal day at work looks like for you?
Well, I hang out with your father a lot, Frank Gramarosso, who's a great, great guy. We've got a team of coaches that work together. And I start out, I get up very early in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm at the college at 5:30. I run on the treadmill for a half an hour. Then I meet with our cross-country team at 6:30. We run outside from 6:30 till 7. Then we do core training, hurdle drills, and we're usually done by about 7:15. Then on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we have practice at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And on Tuesday and Thursday, we have practice at 12:15 on Tuesday and Thursday. On Saturday, we have practice at 6:30 in the morning for a long run, and we don't do anything on Sunday from a track and cross-country perspective.
All right. So can you tell me a little bit of, about where your inspiration came from to be a coach?
I think that there are many. I like the saying that you're part of every person that you've ever met and every experience that you've ever had. So there's many people that have influenced me. Certainly my parents, my brother was an inspiration to me. I come from a very small town, Morton, Illinois, in central Illinois, and I used to go to all his athletic events, and I just thought, man, I'd love to be an athlete. And then my coaches from junior high to high school, I really admired and respected. I loved athletics, and to me it was a living education, a way to learn life's values through sport that I felt were very important to help me with everything that I was doing academically, socially, as well as athletically. Things like commitment, discipline, work ethic, being a team player, and many of the values that I think are critically important to being successful, I learned on the athletic field.
Mm-hmm. So you're well known for your motto, run for fun and personal best. Can you explain a little bit about the meaning behind that motto?
Sure. Run for fun. I can tell you a little story. I like stories. A great mentor for me, he was an Olympic coach for a guy by the name of Jim Ryan. He was the first athlete to ever break 4 minutes in the mile in high school, Jim Ryan. And you can picture yourself going to one of the biggest events of your life. And he was going to the Olympic finals in the 1,500 meter, and he was walking with Ted Hayden, and Jim Ryan said to Ted Hayden, he said, "Say a prayer for me." And Ted Hayden, who was a great mentor and a role model for me, said, "No, I won't say a prayer for you." And Jim Ryan said, "Why?" He said, "Because I'm going to save it for something really important. Save prayers for people that have cancer, people that are in hospitals, people that are homeless, people that have great difficulties, but being in a track meet should be fun. You don't pray for victory. It should have a perspective in what you're doing, and athletics should be fun." So the run for fun means that to me, that it's just a perspective that we're involved with, and it's not something that's critically important. It should be fun. And another part of that story that I really like, there's a guy by the name of David Litzenheim, who ran for University of Wisconsin Stevens Point, and he was picked to win the 800-meter national championship his senior year. And a reporter came up to him, someone like you, said, "Hey, David, aren't you nervous about being picked to win the national championship in the 800 meter?" He said, "No," he said, "I'm not nervous at all about that." He said, "I was nervous when I was in Afghanistan," and he was in the service. When I was in Afghanistan and people were shooting bullets at me, I get nervous about that. But going into a track meet is not something to get nervous about. So it's a perspective that you have. Personal bests, the part of that is that we had a young man by the name of Dan Seward years and years ago. He was competing in the throws, the javelin, the discus, the hammer, the shot put at North Central College in one of our great big meets at the end of the year. And I heard from one of my athletes say, "Hey, did you hear about Dan?" I said, "No." He said, "Well, he won the shot put." I said, "Well, that's great. When I see him, I have to congratulate him." And then later on, somebody else said, "Hey, did you hear about Dan Seward?" I said, "Yeah, he won the shot put. Yeah, but he won the hammer, too, and set a meet record." I said, "Well, I can't wait to see him." A little bit later, I saw our sports information director, Marv Mintz, and he said, "Did you hear about Dan Seward?" I said, "Yeah, he won the hammer, the shot put, and he's in the discus right now. I think he's leading there, and I can't wait to see him." He said, "Yeah, you know, he's leading in that." And I finally saw Dan Seward, and I said, "Dan, congratulations." And here's a key point. You got to listen closely to this. He said, "Yeah." He said, "I got a personal best in all of my events today." In other words, he wasn't comparing himself to anybody else. He wasn't comparing himself to an artificial standard. He wasn't trying to qualify for nationals. He was trying to be the best that he could be. And in my opinion, that's what we're put on earth here to do, is challenge ourselves to be the very best that we can be academically, socially, athletically, and spiritually. And you're not competing against anybody else. You're competing with your teammates, with your classmates, to help you to be the very best person that you can be. One of my favorite sayings, I think, is from Emerson. I think he said years and years ago, he said, "The hardest thing is to be yourself in a world that's trying to make you into something that you're not." I think my message to young people is that their goal should be to be the best that they can be and not worry about how they necessarily compare against anybody else.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. So from your story, it seems like you're really connected to all the people that you meet. So can you explain how your relationship with your coworkers and the guys on the team affects your performance at work?
It's a great question. I'll try not to get too deep into this, but a guy by the name of Dr. David Duke, I heard speak a couple of years ago at a national convention. He said 80% of coaches are level 1 coaches. Maybe this is a little bit difficult to understand. He said they're level 1. They deal with science, technique. Whenever I'm speaking at clinics, the first question that comes up is, "What do you do with your workouts?" Everybody wants to know the workouts, but success comes far below the workouts, the science. He said 80% of the coaches deal with level 1, and that's just the physical part of things. He said only 15% of coaches deal with level 2, and that's where you combine the mind and the body. Sports psychology, the mind and the body working together in terms of maximizing your abilities. But he said something that really got my attention. I think this addresses your question. He said only 5% of coaches deal with level 3, and that is dealing with the heart, the spirit, or the holistic person. When I coach, I want to get to know who you are, not just as an athlete. I want to get to know who you are as a person. And so my goal is to get to connect holistically with my athletes and let them know that I care about them, not just how fast they run, but who they are as a person, and that I care about them and their growth. The essence of life is growth, and my goal is not the outcome in track and cross country, but the person that the athlete becomes in the process is far more important to me. I want to see them grow as a person, because I know if they've gone through a successful athletic program, once they leave our program, they can take those values that they've learned in the program and apply them to all parts of their life.
All right. And for our last question, has it always been your dream to be a coach?
That's a great question. You're asking a lot of excellent questions. No, when I started out, I think when I was your age, I was going to be a physical therapist. Then when I went to University of Illinois, I was going to continue to be in physical therapy. Then I was going to get my PhD in physiology, and I was going to teach at the University of Illinois Chicago, UIC. I had a job there. And ironically, I won't tell the whole story, but ironically, I got a call from North Central College, and they said, "Hey, would you be interested in looking at North Central College to teach and coach here? And they, they said that I could continue to run and while I was teaching and coaching, so I chose North Central College, and I've been there for 51 years.
All right, well, thank you so much for watching. I'm Virginia Gramarosso from Nico Connection, and thank you again to Al Carius for joining us today. Again, thank you all for watching. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody, for being here. Good luck to you.